Hello and welcome. I have the distinct pleasure today of introducing a new solution from Phoenix Contact. Phoenix Contact is a global manufacturer and industry leader in industrial Ethernet technology, also known as OT solutions. Phoenix Contact in Canada, we have an engineering team that has been working with people across many different domains, and we found that there's a challenge kind of across all these different domains as we're moving towards Industry 4.0 in this connected future. People are really looking to have three things done for them. They want to aggregate their signals into one location. They want to then have some type of network segmentation and cybersecurity. So after they collect their signals, they then want to feed it up into a higher level system. That could be like an internet DMZ or a plant network. And they want to make sure that they have security. And the third thing is that as our networks are getting more and more intelligent, we want to make sure that we're embracing IIoT. But again, you have to find a good spot for that. And our solution here, we're calling a concentrator panel. Some people might refer to it as an area or a zone panel, can really accomplish these three tasks. So over the next little bit, we're going to show you the inside of this device and all of the features and benefits that you can get out of this type of solution. So now let's take a look at where this concentrator panel fits in. Most sophisticated end users are going to have an office network going then down into a plant network. That connection is going to be a lot of the times redundant and go through some type of security device such as a firewall to ensure that only specific packets can actually make it to that level. At the plant backbone level, you're going to have different styles of switches. This is where you might see something like a modular managed switch or even a 19-inch rack style switch as seen in the image here. These switches are then going to go out and connect to the different zones. And you can see there, each zone is going to then connect to a machine. So we have lots of security in this whole system. There's a lot of resiliency because we have redundancy at every level. You can have redundant stars, redundant rings, and loads of different redundancy protocols such as MRP or DLR. These protocols are application specific. So typically MRP is going to be used in a Profinet network. RSTP would be used if you're coming more from the IT world, and DLR would be used more in the Ethernet IP world. Everything is going to be redundant, so in the event of a failure, people will be notified. Hopefully the system can recover on its own, but if it can't, then it'll at least notify somebody so that the recovery can happen swiftly. So the network health will be monitored. Everything is going to be really easy to keep up and running. So you can kind of see inside of this solution, it's more than just really a switch and a firewall. In fact, we have a whole solution. So we have redundant power supplies, distribution breakouts. We have patch panels to bring all of your cables from the different networks together. We also have the switches, obviously, and the firewall. And then we also have an IIoT level. So the important thing to realize is it's not just an Ethernet switch, but a complete solution. And we're going to look at what are the features and benefits that this solution can offer to both the higher level networks and the machine network itself. Starting with the plant network, the concentrator panel offers a handful of different solutions. The first thing it's going to do is isolate the traffic. So it's going to make sure that traffic that should only be on the machine network stays there and traffic that should only be on the plant network stays there. So it isolates the two networks. It also has the mGuard, in our case, the router firewall to ensure that we have cyber security to keep security high on the machine level. And because we would install one of these at each individual machine, we can have different rules to protect every machine as different ports and IPs are used. There's the ability to have redundancy with ring topologies, load sharing, and gigabit throughput on all of the switches. And then, as mentioned, there's a lot of IIoT. So the IIoT can ensure that there's unidirectional traffic. It's responsible for gathering everything on the machine side and then feeding it up. Each IIoT device can also be equipped with a gateway to allow lots of different communication protocols. And on top of that, they each have their own database so they can actually record data locally. So you can have data stored on the cloud for long-term use and stored right on that edge device for really short-term use. The benefit there is that if you ever experience some type of outage, your data isn't gone, it's just being buffered locally. This edge device can also act as a PLC and a gateway, as mentioned, so you can really close the different technology gaps. If you only have a smart sensor and you want to be able to maybe fine-tune that data and send it off periodically it can do that, as well as all of those other functions as mentioned. On the control panel itself, what's inside of this control panel that we're calling the concentrator box, we have redundant power supplies. This is going to obviously let us have power come from different sources. We have surge protection as well, and that lets us qualify for the Phoenix Contact limited lifetime warranty. I'll get into that a bit later. Then we have DC distribution with an electronic circuit breaker. And then beside that, there's some patch panels, but we'll talk about them a bit later. Inside of this, on the second row, you can see there is a switch. That would be the switch connecting to the plant network. Then an M-Guard, as I mentioned before, that is our machine guard device. And really what it does is it's a router that has a firewall, so we can isolate traffic from both networks. We can make sure that it's secure by only allowing specific traffic. It has a feature that can auto-tune the rules, so if you're not sure how to set up a firewall, it can handle that for you. And optionally, you can also opt for a higher unit and get VPN technology enabled in that as well. And then again, another managed switch that's fully gigabit aware and going to be able to talk to all of the devices on the machine side. Now the next device beside it is very interesting. This is our PLCnext. It's really functioning as our IIoT device, and it's doing a handful of different operations. So it's an open platform that can help us communicate with multiple cloud systems using OPC UA or MQTT. It can function as a PLC itself, so it can do things like scaling or whatever other PLC functions you might need. It has an integrated database, so you can use something like SQL or ImpulseDB. It has a connection to other PLCs. So again, you can gather data from existing devices on the machine network. The unit has an embedded web page as well. So using that built-in database, you can log data, and then you can actually view that data using the built-in web interface on something like a TV or a PC. And on top of that, it also can be an SNMP gateway, so we can control the switches, or an IO-Link gateway, so we can actually talk to IO-Link devices in the assumption that perhaps your PLC that's existing does not have any IO-Link functionality. Talk about the limited lifetime warranty. What this is it's a feature from Phoenix Contact, and we warrant our devices. So any product that is installed behind the power supply and the surge arrestor gets a limited lifetime warranty, and that's determined by the mean time to fail for the device. So any products that are Phoenix downstream would be warranted. If it's a third party, it's obviously not covered by our warranty, but you can just see how much we stand behind our products, and that's all included inside of this concentrator panel solution. The last section I want to talk about is really the industrial DMZ, or the IDMZ. So in the first image, I was showing the redundant star connection and then going up to a ring. And the reason why this is so popular is that you'll have separation from the IT network specifically, and then each machine also has its own separation. This semi-trusted network in the middle, which is the plant network, is our industrial DMZ, and that's typically where we're going to see things like our maintenance folks or other control software sit. So inside of this solution, we have lots of different features that can be enabled. We can have something like a secure link. So if a guy is sitting in a maintenance room, he would be able to then log into the machine and control it and potentially update code as needed and troubleshoot it. Additionally, if IT is doing things like network scans, we have all of the solutions and technology we need to allow that to happen. Sometimes that could be achieved with something as simple as port mirroring, and because we have a managed switch on both sides of the network, that would be possible. The other thing that we've seen sometimes is an application that needs to be installed, and again, because we have that IDMZ, we're able to do that. So it's a whole real-time network layer that sits there, and this concentrator panel helps enable that and all of the different features that would be required. Now let's take a look inside of the concentrator panel. Starting at the top left, we have two redundant surge suppression devices. These are going to do exactly what their name suggests. They are going to filter out surges to protect all of the devices inside of this box. On top of that, the reason why we have two is that you can have redundant power sources. In the event that one power source were to fail, the other one can take over and keep everything alive. Next to that, we have breakers. So breakers are there to protect against overcurrents, make sure that your wire does not act as a fuse. The next two devices we have here are going to be two redundant power supplies. So far everything is redundant. And from Phoenix Contact, these are NEC Class 2 power supplies. And because we have a surge suppression device inside of this panel, This, as well as all of the other devices downstream that are Phoenix, have a limited lifetime warranty. The power supplies are feeding a diode block. This diode block is used to decouple the power supplies so that in the event that one power supply were to have some type of issue on the output, it does not bring down the entire network. I'll turn this panel a bit, and you can see a little light sitting right there. What that slim device is it's an electronic circuit breaker. So again, it's an overcurrent protection, but this time it's protecting on the 24 volt side, so it's all of the devices in the panel. This feeds directly into a power distribution block. So that's just being used to split power and bring it out to many different places. And then in the top corner, we have some patch panels. So a patch panel is basically like a terminal block for Ethernet. It lets you connect two signals, typically one out exterior to one interior. And in this case, there's two here because these are connecting to this switch, and these two patch panels would be connecting to the higher level network. That could be something like an industrial DMZ or IDMZ, or potentially your plant network if this was being used to isolate the machine in the plants. So if we turn this back and we look at the next device we have here, as I alluded to earlier, this is going to be a switch. So it's the switch that sits on the industrial DMZ side or the plant side, the higher level network, so to speak. It's a fully managed switch. In this case, it's a gigabit switch. We do offer 10100 and fiber variations as well if needed. So because it's fully managed, it has lots of features for diagnostics as well as redundancy. Beside that, we have a MGuard. Our MGuard units are industrial routers. They're IEC 62443 certified, meaning that we actually had a third party, in this case the TUV, inspect these devices to ensure that they meet the IEC standards. They're going to perform a handful of functions. So network segregation is the first big function. They have a firewall again to help out with the protection, and there is remote access solutions that this device supports if required as well. The next unit we have here, this is going to be a 16 port switch. So the reason why this guy has more ports is because it's going to connect down here into all of your field devices. So if you have your field devices, could be PLCs or HMIs, anything like that, it can connect to this level. This level then isolates it and feeds it up to the higher level. But again, fully managed. In this case, gigabit, we do have 10100 and fiber options as well. Sitting right next to that, we have a controller, and this is really an IIoT controller. So in this case, what this device is doing is it's monitoring all of the diagnostics for every device inside of here. It can raise signals using OPC UA or MQTT or anything else. It can also be used as an edge device, gathering data from other devices and kind of concentrating it into one spot, and then allowing you to send it up. And then finally, we have another row of patch panels. So these patch panels are going to be used, as alluded to earlier, to basically connect out exterior wires with wires inside of the panel. The patch panels from Phoenix Contact are color-coded, so on the flap that lifts up, they're fully color-coded. They use something called IDS technology, so basically you don't need to strip your wires. You just have your wires, you follow the color code, you load them into the trays, and then when you press, there's a little black pusher in there. When you push that over, the knives basically come over and pierce the wires. So you load them in 2 wires at a time. It is incredibly simple. And then at the very bottom, there is a shield connector in there, so you can ensure that everything is properly shielded. If I turn this to the side, you can see we have a programming port. This guy just has 120 and an RJ45, so it's easy for somebody to get access to the panel because normally the panel door is going to be shut. The device next to it, this is going to be just a cable entry system from Phoenix Contact. We have many different solutions for cable entry. So in this case, we're just using something that would use gaskets. We also have solutions such as M12's RJ45 or any other type of connection technology you need. We have a wide variety of solutions there. So that is everything inside of the concentrator panel.
Now we're going to look at the PLCnext, specifically a feature we call the eHMI. This is an onboard HMI that's based on HTML5. What that means is that it's an HMI that can be viewed by any web browser, such as Chrome or Firefox. The way that it works is we've pre-programmed a handful of pages, but you can add more as needed. And the PLC is going out and talking to all of the switches using a protocol called SNMP. This is a standard IT protocol. If you wanted to get these signals into another system that did not understand SNMP, we can actually use the PLCnext as a gateway or a converter. And we can convert these SNMP messages into something that another system maybe can read, such as OPC UA or Modbus. So this really simple tool is set up right now with a network overview page, and it lets you view everything that's going on the network. So you can see if the ring is active or deactive, or if any devices are having any issues. The next screen that we've pre-programmed is the alarms page. It quite simply categorizes all of the events that are happening, and it acts as a historian for the network. Again, this can be pushed up to a higher level system, and it's just creating a simple CSV file. So we can really bridge the gap between the IT world and the OT world and really mix and match lots of different protocols using this solution. The next page we have is the OEE, which is overall operational efficiency. Basically, we want to see how efficient every system is being. So this is just a simple page where we can set up some parameters and monitor how all the different machines are behaving. It's a really simple starting point to get a quick glance at the whole system. Next, we want to look at the IIoT functionalities that the PLCnext offers. So by IIoT, there's lots of different solutions. Phoenix Contact, we have our own cloud system. We call it the Professional Cloud or Profi Cloud. But we are also capable of sending data to AWS, Azure, or any other cloud application. You can see here I have a Node-RED application that's running, and this is using something called REST to pull data out of the PLC and push it into a local database. Basically, it's just a way of moving data around on the controller itself. The database we're running is called InfluxDB, and using InfluxDB, we're able to add a graphical front end. So the graphical front end that we typically use is something called Grafana. InfluxDB does have its own front end, but it's just not as detailed as something like Grafana. Grafana and InfluxDB and Node-RED, they're all open source free projects, so they're widely understood around the internet. It's going to be very easy to find support. And this whole system is very easy to use and customize, and it would let you view data on the PLC over time. And the idea would be that you could record local data for a couple of hours, all at the same time you can push that data off the controller into a higher level cloud system. So you kind of have a real-time view as well as a long historical view. The last page on the PLCnext is just a bunch of images showing other applications that the PLCnext can solve. As we mentioned, it has Profi Cloud. We have the ability to run MATLAB and Simulink applications. It's a Profinet device and controller. It can run C or C++. There's a ton of different apps available. As we've gone through, Node-RED, Visual Studio, redundancy. So it's a very powerful platform, and everything that you've seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg. We've really just customized it to fit into this concentrator panel solution, but more features can be added as needed.